Side, and that ball might be picked. It is Nico Reed spinning around backwards, reaching out and grabbing the ball. That's an interception, Nico Reed.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Boise State Broncos. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. By Pacific Office Automation. Problem solved. By Mods PDX. The future of building is here. By ZoomCare. With more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington, ZoomCare offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team, currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at ZoomCare.com. Bellagio's Pizza. Dough and sauce made fresh 6 days a week, right here in Wilsonville. And proud to be serving Northwest communities since 1996. Order online or through the app. By Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org. By Victorico's Mexican Food. Order Victorico's for your game day celebration, in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victoricos.com. Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, within winning distance. Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com. Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com. By Unitas Community Credit Union. Join the team at Unitas Community Credit Union to help you reach your financial goals. And by Langdon Farms Golf Club. There's no better course in the Northwest for year-round golf. Book your tee time at LangdonFarms.com. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome in. Happy Oregon Ducks Game Day to you. Game 2 of the 2024 season. Tonight, Oregon, Boise State down here at Autzen Stadium. We are live out front of the Mashosky Center. Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara with you. Anthony Newman will join us at some point. Westland had a high school football game over in Boise, Idaho. So he was over there scouting an enemy territory this morning.
I think he got lost. I think maybe they read the schedule wrong, and he was wanting to do like show on the road type thing. And he wanted to join us at the stadium, and not so fast, my friend. They Lee Corso'd this son of a gun on him.
We're going back to the state of Oregon.
We're going back to the state of Oregon. You guys are going back to Idaho.
So
that game should be wrapping up soon.
He just sent us a text, so we'll get Q on at some point here throughout the course of the show this afternoon. Again, kickoff coming up in 4 hours. Let's start with what we usually do, Dusty, and that is a look in the rearview mirror. Now, I figured about a week ago today, we'd be coming on talking, hey, how did this freshman look? How did that freshman look? Look at all these young guys that played. Oregon gets out game 1, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That's not how it went. No. And I think we all assumed maybe 14-0 first half, second half, maybe they separate. Did not happen. They eke out a win over Idaho, way too uncomfortable. I've used the analogy all week that I was watching, my brain couldn't comprehend what my eyes were seeing. It just didn't quite make sense. And I think the read on the box score and the final score is the same, where you gain them, all the first downs, what you held them to on third down, everything else that went into it, and then the final score was only a 10-point win. We've had 7 days to try and process a 10-point win over Idaho. What's going through your mind now, and how's the week been?
I hope that adage of the most improvement comes between week 1 and week 2 is true. But it was the interior of the offensive line was glaring, and that was a massive question mark heading into that game with Matt Bedford being out, Dave Iuli on the shelf. Those are the guys that we knew of. What does that interior offensive line look like? And not good. But I think one thing that you have to give Idaho a ton of credit for is they played their butts off, man.
They did.
And they were physical. They played fast. I have never seen an FCS program tackle the way that Idaho did.
I mean, you can count missed tackles on one hand, it felt like the entire game.
But even when a tackle was missed, the sign of good tackling is if somebody else is right there to clean it up. And that was time and time again. And they dared Oregon to do something that is very hard to do, which is put together an 80-yard drive, make sure that you go mistake-free over 80 yards, and unfortunately, Oregon kept having those self-inflicted wounds. And you go back in the immediacy of it, it was, how in the world does that happen? As you start digesting it a little bit more, athlete for athlete, Oregon was better. And they racked up yards. You take those self-inflicted wounds. Johnny Cornelius, who people were criticizing on Saturday, how do you get 2 illegal formations? Thursday night football, we saw it.
Ravens say, hold my beer.
And a lot of those same things happened. Explosive plays called back due to penalty. You had several, the fumble where, a running back blocks the defensive end into Dylan Gabriel. Instead of working inside out, he worked outside in. And there were mishaps in pass protection. I think we did take for granted the value of losing the Remington award-winning center and a first-round draft pick at quarterback who's going to start week 1 in the NFL.
Yep.
And what Bo Nix and Jackson Powers Johnson were able to do pre-snap to get you into a position where they were dissecting what the defense was doing beforehand, right? You replace him with Dylan Gabriel, who's seen all the football in the world, and I give him a ton of credit because everybody's saying deep shots to Dylan Gabriel. He took exactly what the defense gave him.
Yeah, wasn't there, and he didn't have time for it either way.
And so he got the ball out quick. He racked up yards, was efficient with it. Do we want to see more shots downfield? Yes. But up front, when you have a center that doesn't have a ton of experience, in that you moved Poncho, who's supposed to be your starting center, to right guard. The center is the one that sets protections, communicates with everybody else, because from the right guard position, Poncho's not going to be able to talk to Josh Connerly at left tackle, right? Yeah. That communication starts at the center, who establishes where the mic is, and then from there, everything is set forward, right? So you take that into consideration, and then the twist, stunts, slants that Idaho was throwing at Oregon. Yeah, it was a lot, and it was way more complex than what you see in week 1. And, they were timing up that snap to perfection, and I thought Afalava did an incredible job at timing up that snap. Oregon went on a hard count twice. They jumped off sides twice.
Yeah.
And one of they kept it in their hip pocket till the 4th and 7.
4th and 7 last drive, yeah.
Boom, went for it right there. So it wasn't pretty, but at the same time, I also looked at the running back position and I said, man, there were still holes for them to run through, right? And how many ankle pick tackles that did we see, right?
Yep.
Where we usually see Oregon running backs get their feet up and they get through that mess, right? You also had Jordan James where Turf Monster gets him. And that's a big run that, he just trips up and falls.
An explosive run that they missed the entire game.
You had one where he had one guy to beat, and it's the safety coming down. He puts his foot in the ground to juke him, and he cramps up. And you're sitting there and you're like, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas in that game
kept piling up.
Are what was the Achilles for Oregon in that game.
I mean, you look at the end of the first half where you mentioned the penalty on Cornelius where he wasn't lined up on the line of scrimmage. They had a 20-yard gain down to the 10-yard line, and you got a chance to score on that drive. Instead, it's 2nd and 15, and then you get a 7-yard loss on a tunnel screen, and all of a sudden it's 3rd and 22 or whatever. You end up missing the field goal on that drive. You have another chance at the end of the first half. A lot of missed opportunities in that game. It very easily could have been the separated score that we thought maybe coming in. But here's where I've come back to.
If they score on that drive at the end of the first half there,
21-0 at the end of the half.
That game feels completely
different. Idaho had all the momentum going into the locker room because they forced that strip sack fumble. It's only 14-0. Then they get the 3 and out to start the second half, and it just wakes everybody up.
And that's that middle 8. Yep. We hear Dan Lanning say middle 8. They got 0 points in the middle 8.
Yeah, with 3 shots at it basically.
Yep. And that that right there, that's the momentum shift of a football game.
Yeah.
And that's why the middle 8 is so important, like Dan Lanning always talks about.
It's an inch here, an inch there, and I think that's a lesson all week for Oregon. What I will say is, we'll get to the Boise State side of things here in a moment with Bob Behler, their voice, but it is actually kind of, I think if you're taking the glass half full approach, it is that's a wake-up call for a football team, and sometimes you don't get those. And I thought Lanning's speech after the game was, don't wait for a loss to learn the lessons that you need to learn. You need to learn them from this game because I think most people felt like that kind of was a loss. And so Oregon's been working their tails off all week. I can't wait to see what they look like tonight. Boise State's in town, a team that'll get you if you don't bring your A game. Oregon knows that over the years they've learned that the hard way, and we'll find out more about Oregon's opponent. Let's go behind enemy lines. Bob Behler, the voice of Boise State, longtime voice. He is coming up next, but now it is time for next game. Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your Game Day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Lots of slowing as you approach 12th and Sherwood Road into Wilsonville, and a little more developing north of Albany now. We are currently looking smoky free. 83, partly cloudy in Portland with an expected high of 89, and 82 and partly cloudy in Eugene. Looks for 82 and partly cloudy skies at Kick. It could dip into the high 60s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food.
Duck fans, game day is here, and you need fuel to cheer on Oregon. Hey, it's Dusty, and at Victor Rico's Mexican food, we know the game doesn't wait, so neither should you. Swing by before kickoff for mouth-watering burritos, tacos, quesadillas, and more. All served up fast and with the quality you crave. Whether you're tailgating or watching from home, Victor Rico's has you covered. Get in, get out, and get back to the action. Fueling Duck fans with restaurant-quality food, ready in no time. Pick up in-store or order for takeout or delivery at victorricos.com.
Looking for a better primary care experience? Welcome to ZoomCare. ZoomCare is here for more than urgent needs. We can be your PCP too. Our primary care team has grown and is currently accepting new patients. Don't wait for the care you need. You can have your first visit with one of our many providers within 48 hours. And we take most insurances. Why wait weeks for an appointment when you can be seen today? Learn more about establishing primary care at ZoomCare.com. ZoomCare. Beyond better healthcare.
The Fan 411.
Come see 1080 The Fan host Luke Anderson from Sinner and the Saint take on the world-class athletes of Major League Table Tennis at Viking Pavilion on opening day of their first stop after returning from Paris. Don't miss your opportunity to be a part of Major League Table Tennis's second exciting season. A fun event for all ages. Doors open at 2:30 on Friday, September 13th. For more information, visit 1080thefan.com.
That's The Fan 411.
It's not just about watching the game, it's about betting on it. I'm Mike Valeni, and on Cash the Ticket, Jim Costa and I break down every college football and NFL matchup like it's the last game we're ever going to watch. From the best bets to the sneaky underdogs, and of course, as my co-host likes to say, the value. And the one thing we're not going to do is pretend we're professionals. We have fun with it, it's an entertainment product, and it makes watching games a hell of a lot of fun. So Cash the Ticket, follow it in the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Here's the sweep, the fly sweep, and the double. Oh, the ball's loose. Oregon might have a chance and will get on it back at the 23-yard line.
This is Behind Enemy Lines. A look at Ducks opponents with the insiders who know them best. On the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, we'll take a look at the injury report coming up in a moment. Hopefully some good news on the Oregon offensive line. Also, is Boise State dealing with injuries on their offensive line? That is right around the corner. But Bob Behler is the longtime voice of Boise State football. He hopped on with Danny and Dusty this week on Thursday and talked about the history between these two teams. And I'm tired of hearing about it, but he talked about that 0-3 record for Oregon.
It just seems like it's been a while since the first two regular season meetings. 2008, which was my first road game, the game that Kellen Moore, as a freshman, came over there, and it was a higher scoring game, and then it was a lower scoring game in 2009, which of course I guess now is pretty much known as the blunt punch game, as you guys described it. But and I mean, obviously Boise State's won all three games, but all three kind of different types of games. You know, Boise State has been fortunate in this series, and from my perspective, I hope it happens again.
Of course you do. You know, I was going to say, you might be the reason why Boise State is 3-0. I mean, all three matchups start your first year of calling games for Boise State is when these two teams first played, and it's been 3-0 since. But so I'm going to just go ahead and blame you, Bob.
Yeah, you can blame me, or if on the other side, if you're wearing blue and orange, give me some credit. Yeah. No, I mean, and then if I'm not mistaken, we were trying to think about this. Oregon's had a different coach in every game, correct? The first one was Pilati. The second one definitely was Kelly.
Yep.
And then it was Cristobal filling in for Taggart, right, at the bowl game.
Yep,
fourth
correct.
time will be Lanning, and Boise State has had Peterson twice, Harsin, and then this will be Danielson's first time.
And I think that that's an interesting point because Boise State was that beacon of stability under Chris Peterson. I mean, it started, with Dan Hawkins and kind of building the program up. Chris Peterson took it over, and in 2006 through 2013, it was so much stability there. But since then, you've had Harsin and Avalos and now Spencer Danielson. What is it about Spencer that kind of has calmed the waters there in Boise?
He is one of those guys that just gets you to follow. I think he's a natural leader. And I think maybe the biggest thing that impressed me the most, and there's a ton of things about Spencer Danielson that impresses me, but that he has such buy-in from the players. We only lost one person in the portal. It was in like the 2D. That you're looking at and you're saying, wow, that kid played some last year. It was Green, the quarterback, went to Arkansas. And Green kind of got beat out as the year moved along. Matson was getting more and more playing time. He, of course, is the starting quarterback now. But I don't know. It's just something about it. I mean, I've never played football in my life. I've broadcasted a lot. But if Spencer Danielson was working with me that I could run through the line to get 3 yards, I kind of think I could.
Speaking of running through the line, Ashton Genty is an absolute dude. I watched a couple of Boise State games last year, and you could see the push that he was going to make this year as being pretty clearly the top running back in the country. He had an unreal performance against Georgia Southern. What is it about him that just makes him so unbelievably special?
There are a lot of things, but for me, number one is his ability to sort of assess the situation as he's running and just know where to cut, know where to, change direction. And again, very powerful, very athletic, very fast, but he just seems to be better than anybody I've seen at, knowing when to maybe, like, this is going to sound stupid, but when to slow down and let the defense over pursue and then cut back. Or know when to, okay, I've got to put it in another gear because that window is not very big and I got to get through it. That to me is something that I marvel at every time, that he goes. And I'll tell you, as a play-by-play guy, I learned a valuable lesson last week on his first touchdown run of 77 yards. Neither team did anything on the first drive, and so they punt it back, and Boise State has it on their own 23-yard line, 23-yard line it would have been. And I'm kind of setting the scene. I'm looking at the line because I was told maybe there'd be some either ors, maybe somebody would trade off. So I'm talking about the line. I've got the binoculars. And the next thing I know, before I've even given him the ball on the handoff, he shot through the line and is, running down the left side for 77 yards and a score. So I had to hurry up. So it's kind of like that baseball announcer that, you don't quite get the start. Here comes the pitch. And then all of a sudden the ball is driven, into, a Judge home run is like halfway to the moon by the time you realize what's going on. So I got to be better on point on any offensive play. I don't have time on the first play of the scrimmage to assess who might be in the offensive line. I got to do that faster.
So there is Bob Behler, the voice of Boise State, this week on with Danny and Dusty. And I am sick and tired of hearing about an 0-3 record for Oregon against Boise State. Can we add a little context to this all-time record? First off, 2008, we got quarterback injuries, bringing off freshmen. They're breaking collarbones. We can't throw the football. And then the Vegas Bowl in 2017, interim coach. Guys are opting out. Look, I'll give them 2009. They dominated in 2009. That's a quality win for Boise. This 3-0 crap, I'm sick and tired of it.
On the program podcast, Cole Linehan played in that 2008 game.
Yes.
And that's when Darren Thomas came in, and he said he was a defensive lineman on that team. He's like, oh, we realized, like, the freshman can play.
Darren Thomas is pretty good.
He's got a little something. The 2009 game was his first game as a fan, and his little brother was a redshirt freshman at Boise State.
Oh, no.
So he's up there in duck gear sitting with all of the Boise people.
Yes, one guy in a sea of blue.
And he's just, like, miserable at the fact that the way that game played out, and then he looks down on the field and sees LeGarrette Blount punch Byron Hout on the field, and Scott Frost bear hug and drag him off the field. He's like, this is going really well for us right now.
Things are going great. Chip Kelly 0-1, off to a great start, man.
Well, Chip was refunding fans for their trip to Boise on that one.
That one I'll never forget either.
That was a heck of a time to be alive. Mike Bellotti pacing the sidelines as the athletic director and not the head coach, and everybody's like, is he looking over Chip's shoulder? I think Chip did okay.
But you ended up okay.
I think he did all right.
His 4-year run was fine, but a little context needs to be added to this 3-0 all-time record, and I think and I hope that damn thing ends tonight and I never have to hear that again.
Also, you can take from that was week 1, game 1 of Chip Kelly, right?
Yes, 19-8, I believe the final was.
Everybody was sitting there saying Chip Kelly's not the guy. He can't call plays and run an offense. Something's wrong with the Oregon offense. The Oregon offense in week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they looked just fine after that. Sometimes, and to your point of what you said in the last segment, sometimes that wake-up call is needed, and Oregon may have gotten lucky that it happened in a double-digit win.
Yeah, 10-point win.
Instead of an embarrassing loss to a team like Boise on the road.
Exactly, and we'll see if Oregon learned that wake-up call like that 2009 team did. Coming up a little under 4 hours from now, Oregon and Boise. Let's find out more about the injuries on both sides, because Oregon's without some offensive linemen last week. Where are they at on that? Boise might be a little banged up front as well. The ZoomCare injury report is coming up next, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Lots of slowing as you approach 12th and Sherwood Road into Wilsonville, slowly developing south of Salem as well, and a little more north of Albany. We are currently looking smoky-free. 84, partly cloudy in Portland with an expected high of 89, and it's 83 in Ferry and Eugene. Look for 82, partly cloudy skies at kickoff. Could dip into the high 60s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rest with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day.
We should have our guys available. Right now, we're still waiting to see. Have some guys that still have to get healthy.
This is the ZoomCare Injury Report. A look at the injuries that could impact today's game and the key matchups in college football. Brought to you by ZoomCare. With more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington, ZoomCare offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team, currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at ZoomCare.com.
Well, I think when we get to the ZoomCare injury report, there's only one position group that anybody is curious about and wants to know about. You know, no offense to Gary Bryant. I hope he's in the lineup tonight. It'd be great if he played. Sounds like he's on track to do so. The offensive line is where everybody's attention is going to go. Not only what does the starting five look like, but who is back, and do they have their guys that were banged up back in the lineup? Matthew Bedford did not play last week, the big-time transfer who came in supposedly to start at right guard. They're hopeful that he's going to be able to go. They've had some other injuries up front, but I think everybody does see in about 3.5 hours is going to have their eyes on what's that front five look like, who's in the lineup, who's not in the lineup, and can Bedford make his debut in an Oregon uniform tonight?
Yeah, and that's going to be where all eyes are, right? You heard Dan Lanning at the beginning of the week say that he was optimistic that both Gary Bryant Jr. and Matt Bedford would be in the lineup, and they were trending in that direction. That is huge because depth on the offensive line, when you go down the line and how we thought this offensive line was going to look, it was Connerly at left tackle, Marcus Harper at left guard, Pancho Laulu at center. Then you had Matt Bedford at right guard and Ajani Cornelius at right tackle. Your backups in the interior of the offensive line heading into this season, you said Dave Iuli and Nishad Strother.
Yes.
Neither one of those guys we saw last week either. And so, he is a big
defensive lineman. I think there's the hope that Bedford can do. Looks like
Gary Bryant Jr. is what was missing, right? Those short throws and then break a tackle and go.
Yeah.
Gary Bryant has that combination of size and speed that you get that guy who catches that 5-yard spot route or a hitch, and then he makes a guy miss and is off to the races. That's what Gary Bryant Jr. can give you on the offensive side of the football.
So they might plug in, hopefully, a different starting offensive line today and maybe have Gary Bryant back as another weapon on the outside. The ZoomCare injury report, of course, brought to you by ZoomCare with more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington. ZoomCare offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team currently accepting new patients, schedule, or learn more at ZoomCare.com. Let's take a quick break from the Oregon-Boise State game. We obviously have a ton more to get to over the next hour and a half. Take a look at our locks of the week. And I already have mine. I know it. I've locked it in. It's locked. It's ready to go.
Okay.
Legends Casino Hotel Lock of the Week. That is next. Ducks pregame show live down here at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Coors Light presents to
Tennessee game on Tuesday or Wednesday. They were up 21-0 like 2 minutes into that game. Nico, that young talented freshman who I'm not even going to try, or sophomore, I believe. Yeah, not even going to attempt.
The $8 million man at quarterback.
Nico is a stud, and I'm with you on Heupel and Tennessee getting the big win tonight.
And that one is one of those neutral site games. We're going to use the air quotes right there.
In Charlotte.
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's like Oregon going to play Georgia and Atlanta.
Exactly. Makes no sense, man. The Lock of the Week brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel on Toppenish. Legends Casino Hotel within winning distance. Let's get to our keys to the game for tonight. There's one key player on Boise State that everybody circled this week. How do you slow him down? That'll be a big key. We'll dive into our keys for the game coming up next, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Russ.
A lot of slowing as you approach 12th and Sherwood Road into Wilsonville, more on the south side of Salem, and a little bit more even at exit 243 north of Albany, looking like we are currently smoky-free. 85 and fair in Portland with an expected high of 89, and 84 and partly cloudy in Eugene. Look for 82. Partly cloudy skies at Kick. It could dip into the high 60s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
If you're considering new construction and want it done right and fast by a team that's focused on innovation, collaboration, and creativity, you want Mods PDX. At Mods PDX, we craft beautiful, sustainable, energy-efficient buildings of the highest quality. Our modular approach means your project can be completed faster than traditional construction, and our team of uniquely qualified architectural and trade professionals have the expertise and experience to make your vision a reality. Visit us today at modspdx.com.
Drive home in the Audi SUV of your dreams at Audi Wilsonville. Now through September 30th, get 0.99% APR for up to 60 months with no down payment on a new Audi Q4 e-tron or Q5e. Upgrade your driving experience with a luxury electric SUV from Audi Wilsonville.
For highly qualified customers through Audi Financial Services. Available on select new unused 2024 Audi models. Not all customers will qualify for credit approval or advertised APR. Offer ends 9/30/24. Subject to credit approval by Audi Financial Services. Visit Audi Wilsonville for details.
Lowe's knows to start fall projects, you need reliable outdoor power equipment from Ego. Right now, get your choice of a select 56-volt blower or chainsaw for $249. The 56-volt technology powers over 80 tools, so you can switch from blowing leaves to cutting trees with ease. Save time and money with Ego, the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power. Valid through 10/2. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. Item number 5207558 and item number 4354078.
Home ownership. At Progressive, we know it's part of the American dream. It's winds blowing across a fruited plain, and also your new fire pit, which subsequently sets your gazebo ablaze. It's hard-hitting football, and an even harder-hitting price estimate from your general contractor. That's a star-spangled bummer. It's also around-the-clock protection when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, which can help keep the American dream of home ownership alive and kicking. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
I think there's two ways to create explosive plays from players, and that is everybody wins their one-on-one, you get explosive plays, or we have extreme detail in how we play.
It's time for the Audi Wilsonville Keys of the Game. A look at the players and units that have to have a big day for the Ducks. Brought to you on The Fan by Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com.
All right, before I get to the keys to the game, we're live back down here at Autzen Stadium. Andy Jorgenson, Dusty Hara hanging out with you for another hour and a half. Just a quick score update. Notre Dame, fresh off of a big win on the road at Texas A&M last week. Talk about coming out flat after a big statement win. They lead Northern Illinois 14-13. There's about a minute and a half to go in the game, and Northern Illinois is in field goal range. So we'll file that one away. We will revisit it here in a little bit. I will let you know if the upset goes down, but Northern Illinois has a very good chance at picking up a win in South Bend, Indiana, and knocking off Notre Dame the week after they beat Texas A&M.
Who feels worse about that, Notre Dame fans or A&M fans?
A&M's like, dude, are you kidding me, man? Northern Illinois could beat them. We couldn't even take them down. Let's get to our keys to the game, and I think there's a pretty easy place to start, Dusty, and that is when you have a running back that goes 20 carries, 267 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. He had 20 carries and 6 touchdowns, 267 yards, averaging over 13 yards per carry. That has to be the number one key for Oregon's defense today. How do you stop maybe the best running back in the entire country?
You have to be able to tackle well. I think if you look at Ashton Jeanty and his incredible day of 267 yards and 6 touchdowns against Georgia Southern, what really pops out to you is not just the offensive line being road pavers in paving the way for him, but arm tackles, arm tackles, arm tackles. He is strong. He is small and compact. He's about 5'9", 215, and he is quick as the dickens. But you saw so many, and you watching those highlights of those big runs that he was breaking off left and right, there was a lot of at contact, legs stopped moving, a lot of guys trying to arm tackle him. You can't do that.
He's just going to run through it.
There have to be multiple green shirts flying at him on every single play. And it's got to be a relentless pursuit from the first whistle all the way to the end, because he will make you miss, he will break tackles, and he will make you look silly if you don't stick to the basics.
Yeah, that is the number one key, is slowing down Ashton Jeanty, who went for 267 and 6 touchdowns last week. I think you go to the other side of the ball, too, and one of the things that fans lamented at the outset of game one is not taking shots down the field. But as we kind of went through in the opener, they weren't really available, one. And two, Dylan Gabriel did not have a lot of time to throw the football. There's some crazy numbers on that. But I think opening up the offense for some of those big explosive plays in the passing game, we all focus on the offensive line, but that's the other part of it, not being able to run the football, is when there's not that threat that you can just kind of play in a phone booth around the line of scrimmage. They got to open things up offensively. Starts with the offensive line.
It really does. You got to get up to the second level and make sure linebackers aren't able to make those ankle pick tackles. And look, one thing that Idaho did was they parked 2 safeties deep and said, you're not going to beat us deep. And you can afford to do that if you are sure tackling and your linebackers have the ability to rally without an offensive lineman getting to that second level.
Yep, and Oregon did not do that very much last week.
How about this for Ashton Jeanty last week?
Yeah.
He averaged 8.15 yards after contact. He averaged
8 yards after contact.
8.15 yards after he got hit.
I mean, just insane. You got to be able to tackle better than that. I would like to assume that Oregon's defense is a little bit better than Georgia Southern's. That game was, though, a shootout last week. Boise State's defense gave up 40-plus points to Georgia Southern.
Yeah, and this is the thing that my panic level about where Oregon is at is completely different in years past, where we've had tight games against whether it's an FCS opponent or an FBS opponent that's deemed as inferior to Oregon.
Should be an easy win, it's not.
Because it is no longer, okay, how long are we going to rely on the offense to put up points and the defense never coming around? The defense played lights out last week.
Yep.
And if you take away, the trick play, which you got to know that, Idaho was going to be running trick plays to get yards.
And Lanning was yelling at him on the sideline, watch a trick play before the snap.
If you take that, and then if you take the screen pass, which is, one of those, you take those 2 plays out, on that running back screen, that was a third of Idaho's yards and accounted for both of their touchdowns. Defense played pretty well.
And I think today is an awesome test, because as I look around the Big Ten, and we'll get to our Big Ten preview, let you know some other games going on around the conference, but as I look around the Big Ten right now, I brought this up yesterday on the show with Sprague, how many Big Ten offenses right now scare you as a dynamic passing attack? There's just not a lot of them. And so when you're playing a team like Boise, who look, they can throw the ball a little bit, they got a good quarterback, but their offense is based around running the football and Ashton Jeanty and being physical at the line of scrimmage. It's a really good test for what you're going to have to face likely throughout the season. Look at Michigan's offense today, man. Their quarterback play is horrendous, but their offensive line's good. They can run the ball. They just got overpowered by a better offense on the other side in Texas today. But it's a good test for that defense to say, hey, if we can bottle this guy up, we're going to face a lot of offenses similar to this when we go through Big Ten play.
Yeah, even Ohio State, right, where they have all the weapons in the world on the outside, but it is, do they trust Will Howard to distribute the ball as effectively as C.J. Stroud did 2 years ago?
Their passing game was clunky in the first half against Akron, man.
Yeah, but they have 2 running backs that are 2 of the best in the country, and you're going to see a lot of really good running backs, whether it is at Michigan, Ohio State, or today, Ashton Jeanty and the Boise State Broncos.
Slow down the run against Ashton Jeanty, create some explosive plays in the pass and run game, 2 big keys for tonight's game.
And one guy, Boise State, that He's kind of slipping under the radar, but there was talk of him being a high draft pick. Was Prince Strong, the wide receiver, 6'5",
big guy,
211 pounds, and he has the frame and the body. Did not have a single catch in week 1 against Georgia Southern. You have to feel like they are going to get him the ball. And Dirk Cutter even said it this week in his press availability, the offensive coordinator at Boise State, that, when you have 6 or 7 guys that are reliable targets, there's only one ball to go to him.
Yeah.
And we go to the guy who gets open. They do have receivers on the outside, like you said.
And when you run the balls in the end zone 6 times, you're not going to have as many. You're going to be a little bit more limited passing because they were so dynamic on the ground, too. But hopefully Oregon can slow that up and then look to the outside and slow down those wide receivers. Let's take a look at the Big Ten. We'll do that coming up next. The Audi Wilsonville offers unmatched service to help you find the perfect car online, AudiWilsonville.com. Those are your keys to the game. The Big Ten, some games final, some games going on, games later tonight. We'll take a look at all of those coming up next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Lots of slowing as you approach 12th and Sherwood Road into Wilsonville. More on the south side of Salem and a little more at exit 243 north of Albany. It also looked like we are smoky free out there. 85 and fair in Portland with an expected high of 89 and 84 and partly cloudy in Eugene. Should be 82 partly cloudy skies at Kick. It could dip into the high 60s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
It's time to take a look at this big, beautiful coast-to-coast conference.
4 Big Ten teams, they will benefit. I can't wait for it.
This is the Big Ten Preview. A look at the conference schedule on the Odyssey app. And your home for Oregon Ducks football. 1080, The Fan.
I got to be honest with you, Big Ten preview is still a little weird. It's going to take a while to be normal. I'm listening to the Maryland-Michigan State game on my way down, and I'm like, what? Okay, well, both on the schedule for Oregon, so let's do a little future scout.
You got to start figuring that out, bud.
You got to figure out who the opponents are. Before we get to our Big Ten preview and recap, because some games are already final, it should be noted, Northern Illinois, I just told you they were going to kick a field goal. They kicked a field goal. There is 30 seconds left. They have the lead, 16-14 in South Bend, number 5 Notre Dame. Fresh off a massive win, might be going down. And this is, again, it's a Big Ten preview, but I want to point it out anyways. Utah built a nice early lead against Baylor. They were up 23-0 in the first half of that game. This is horrible to report. Cam Rising got hurt again.
No.
He was shoved out of bounds towards the end of the first half, I believe it was, and ran basically headfirst into their water coolers. He did not return. Isaac Wilson has played the second half. Utah has not scored in the second half, and Baylor not going to likely win. There's less than 2 minutes to go, but a 23-0 game is now 23-12, so that's where we're at right now. We'll keep an eye on the Notre Dame game and let you know how that one ends up. Let's take a look at the rest of the conference. Just feels weird to not say Conference of Champions. Iowa has a lead in the Cyhawk game, 19-17. They're trying to run out the clock over Iowa State.
Look, Kirk Ferentz comes back, and they all of a sudden, their offense comes to a screeching halt. 40 points last week, and back there he's like, no.
No, hold it.
We will not score points.
That is not what we do around here, okay? One other game going on, as I mentioned, I was listening to it on the way down. Michigan State, Jonathan Smith coaching his first Big Ten game. It's the first conference game of the year for anybody. They are trailing Maryland 24-17. About 4 minutes to go. Looks like I think Maryland just missed a field goal.
How is that in Child's
He threw
play?
3 picks, and it should have been 4. He has 3 on the box score, and there was one when I was listening on the way down that went through the hands of a defender.
Today
he has 3 picks. 249 in the air, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for Aiden Childs. Wisconsin has the lead over South Dakota, 27-13. That's probably a look-ahead spot for them. They didn't look good last week either, but they play Alabama at home next week. Michigan just got, dog-walked in their own building by Texas. That was a blowout. Penn State survived a scare against Bowling Green. Talk about a letdown spot. They were let down, and they were down big early. Came back and found a way to win. And the Washington game just went final. They beat Eastern Michigan 30-9, not covering a 24-point spread.
That game was 3-0 midway through the second quarter.
Yes.
And they were losing.
They were losing 3-0.
3-0.
So Washington is an interesting team. Jonah Coleman is an absolute beast. He had a long touchdown run finally that he broke. He had 11 carries for 140 yards in that game. Or excuse me, 11 carries for 104 yards. But they're an interesting team trying to find their identity. So many new pieces, and obviously a big game at the end of the year that is looming for Oregon. Elsewhere in the conference, I mentioned that Nebraska game a bit ago. USC also plays tonight. They take on Utah State. That's a Big Ten Network game. There were a couple of finals last night. Indiana played Western Illinois. Anybody care about that? They won 77-3. And Northwestern, playing in their makeshift stadium on the lakefront, lost at home to Duke, 26-20 in 2 overtimes.
Dang.
So there you go. There's your look around the Big Ten Conference. It's no longer the Conference of Champions, but we all got to adapt and evolve with the times. Let's get to the Unitas Credit Union Coaches Corner. Dan Lanning joins Isaac and Suk every single Thursday. What did he say this week ahead of the matchup against Boise State? That is coming up next. You are listening to the Ducks pregame show live down here at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
The Fan 411.
Come see 1080.
And, you had 2 opportunities to score there going into half. We turned the ball over once. We missed a kick on another one. You don't come out and score at the beginning of the second half. You have some success. You kind of shoot yourself in the foot, but the stats are reality, right? That's exactly where it's at. And that's why, stats matter, but stats also don't matter. Execution matters. Finish matters. And we didn't finish in some critical situations to be able to put points on the board or keep points off of it.
when you went back, how close was it? Because I remember, obviously that we had the one deep pass just outstretched on at the beginning of the game that was half a yard too much. James had one where it looked like the turf monster got him, another maybe his calf cramped. It looked, at least from kind of a layman's view, it looked like there were a handful of times that it was a sliver away. Is that kind of what the film showed, or was there more to it?
Well, that's generally football. That's generally how football works. It's a game of inches, and you might be an inch away from having some big explosive plays one way or the other. But that's what makes that game so great is 11 guys in sync in unison and, operating at a really high level and creating plays like that.
Thank you, and good luck this weekend against Boise State.
All right, appreciate it, guys. You have a good one.
Yep, we'll talk to you next week. That is Dan Lanning each Thursday at 4, brought to you by Unitas Community Credit Union. Like a coach's playbook, Unitas has a winning strategy for your finances. You, us, Unitas.
Ducks Game Day traffic and Smokey reports on the Fan.
Lots of slowing as you approach Tualatin Sherwood Road into Wilsonville. More on the south side of Salem and a bit more at exit 243 north of Albany. It looks like we do have a report of a Smoky south of Albany. 85 and fair in Portland with an expected high of 89. 84 partly cloudy in Eugene. Look for 82 and partly cloudy skies at Kick. It could dip into the high 60s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Football season is back, and that means Ducks Game Day traffic. It's never fun. Isaac Ropp with a friendly suggestion. Pull off I-5 at Langdon Farms in Wilsonville. It's the single
Out who the next Ducks will be.
Oregon has really, really put their hooks in the Northwest. Suddenly, this class looks like it could be very, very special.
It's time for Recruiting with Andrew Nemec, the Ducks Game Day edition on 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's talk some recruiting. Andrew Nemec, Director of Recruiting, SB Live Sports, our recruiting insider right here on The Fan, and the host of Recruiting with Andrew Nemec every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. at Andrew Nemec on Twitter. Nemec, good morning to you. Let's talk some recruiting. I see that recruits of Oregon, commits, I should say, of Oregon are wearing Miami gloves and cleats. What does it mean? Should I be freaking out?
Yeah, I thought we were going to start on a positive note. We're starting on the wrong foot here.
They beat Idaho by 10. We're we're a little pessimistic right now.
Dirt is in panic mode.
Full panic mode. I feel you. So Oregon may have the number one wide receiver class in America, and we will get to that later because it was a big Friday night for one of their big commits. DeCorian Moore, Dallas Wilson, and Cooper Perry are three All-American wide receivers. In fact, some people have DeCorian Moore and Dallas Wilson 1 and 2. They're both committed to Oregon. Miami for a long time has been trying to flip Dallas Wilson. He has said all along, I'm solid to Oregon. I wrote an article because he told me I'm solid to Oregon. That same day, he released a video talking about what it meant to him to be committed to Oregon, and yet he continues to take visits. And there is a possibility that Miami, if they stay hot, and it's Mario Cristobal, so they probably lose a game or two they shouldn't along the way. But if they do stay hot and make the college football playoff and are ACC champions while Florida and Florida State fall off, there's a chance somewhere along the line that Dallas Wilson, in fact, flips to Miami. It's something to watch.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's get to the positive news of the wide receiver class. DeCorian Moore, obviously a massive commit on the 4th of July. I remember watching that commitment live on my Instagram as my wife's looking at me like, what the hell's the matter with you? It's the 4th of July. Why are you watching this? It's like, you don't understand, babe. He had a big night last night, it sounds like.
I called last night Future Duck Friday. I officially christened it Future Duck Friday. So DeCorian Moore caught a short pass, juked a defender, and the way that he kind of maneuvered between two defenders, they tackled each other. He scooted through them and ran for a touchdown. He's the number 1 wide receiver in the country. He has a chance to end up as the highest-rated Oregon commit ever. He's a consensus top 5 player, a consensus number 1 receiver in America. That's hard to do these days because there's so many good ones. DeCorian Moore is absolutely special, and every Friday night he puts out a highlight that you just cannot believe. I mean, this is a guy who's kind of that jitterbug, Zay Flowers, Tyreek Hill mold, but he also can stretch the field vertically where Zay Flowers kind of can't. So that's where you get some of that Tyreek in there. He's just flat out special. Cooper Perry every week seems to have a big night. He had over 100 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. Don't forget, Oregon has the number 1 class in America. Yes, it's early, but they have the number 1 class in America in 2026. Tredarian Ball is the number 2 running back in America. He committed to Oregon over everybody. I mean, we're talking, Georgia, LSU, Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, Oklahoma, the whole deal. He caught 2 passes back-to-back in the second quarter, housed both of them for over 100 yards receiving, put a capper on with a long touchdown run. So he had 3 long scores. Modern Day is the number 1 team in America. They played number 2 Bishop Gorman last night in maybe the biggest high school game in America all year. Yes, it's early, but those 2 are the top 2 teams in America. And Jordan Davison was the straw that stirred the drink in Modern Day's win. He had 90 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, including the 2 that mattered most, to kind of get them on the board and then give them some cushion to go up 21-7. Throw in DeCorian Moore again with a big night. It's just everywhere across the board. These Oregon commits are producing. It's just really impressive to see. Again, Future Duck Friday went swimmingly for Oregon fans.
Something that's interesting, Nemec, is like we know that Mario Cristobal, the identity of his recruiting was in the trenches and on the offensive line especially. There's 3 offensive linemen committed for 2025. Is that still is big of a point of emphasis with this staff in the recruitment of the big guys up front? And how is that shaping up? And is there anything coming down the pipeline in that regard?
Well, that might be the multi-million-dollar question when we're all said and done, not because of NIL, but because of potential staff changes. We saw in the Idaho game, if any group looked not ready, it was the offensive line. Alik Terry in last year's recruiting cycle missed on most of Oregon's top targets. You look at that group, and to be completely honest, and some people hate to see it, but Oregon recruits nationally so well that they really don't have to recruit very many kids in their own state. They missed on so many players nationally. They ended up coming back home and taking a couple of athletes who are very projectable, but it's going to take a long time to develop along the offensive line. In this class so far, there's been a whole lot of swing and miss along the offensive line, and it's becoming an issue, and you're starting to hear some questions. Can Oregon develop outside of Mario's guys? Sure, Jackson Towers Johnson was great. Sure, Josh Connerly Jr. did a great job. He was primarily recruited by Adrian Clem, and he projects as a future high draft pick. Johnny Cornelius is a transfer. The interior, a lot of those guys are the recruits, and that's where Oregon kind of struggled a little bit. So it's going to be fascinating to see if Alik Terry can kind of pull Oregon out of this funk a little bit in recruiting, because if there's an area right now where Oregon's missing, it's O-line, and to be honest, I'd underline it and put a couple exclamation points behind it. It's a major issue. They're recruiting at a real low point right now along the offensive line.
Yeah, especially with the way they played last week, and we'll see how they do tonight, but that's going to be a point of emphasis for fans the rest of the season. Andrew Nemec, he's a director of recruiting for SP Live Sports. He is our recruiting insider, and he hosts Recruiting with Andrew Nemec every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. at Andrew Nemec on Twitter. Thanks as always for the time, buddy, and we'll chat again next Saturday.
Of course. Can I throw something out real quick?
Yeah, what do you got?
So the Texas Insider reported that Oregon hosted Elijah Barnes last week. That's true on a visit. He's a Texas commit. And absolutely threw Coach Samples under the bus and the Oregon staff under the bus, saying that Elijah Barnes' entire visit was negatively recruiting Texas. It really rubbed people the wrong way, including Elijah Barnes, who said that it's absolutely not true at all. He was very upset that was the reputation Oregon got. He said, listen, I'm still committed to Texas, but nothing but respect for Oregon. So if you're hearing that Oregon's out there negatively recruiting, they do not want to stop the flow of talent from Texas. They do not want to miss anyone in Texas, and they certainly aren't selling bad signs of Texas. Rather, they're selling the best of what Oregon has to offer, and that report is patently false. Oregon focusing on their future and not what's going wrong at Texas.
Ooh, sounds like some Texas folks maybe a little scared.
A little bit of a panic down there, a little bit of a pucker down there in the old Longhorn State. Hey, if that helps end up getting that kid to Oregon because some dumb insider is going to run his mouth like that, I'm all for it. Great insight. Thanks, Nemec.
Of course. Bye.
There you go, Andrew Nemec, our recruiting insider. Let's reset things and move into the second hour of the pregame show. The gates are open. We're live out front of the Mashosky Center, getting closer and closer. 3 hours away from kickoff between Oregon and Boise State. A big one tonight. We learn a lot about this Oregon Ducks squad and what the 2024 season is going to look like. We start the next hour here in a moment, but first, time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your Game Day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Pretty slow as you approach 12th and Sherwood Road into Wilsonville, more on the south side of Salem, and a little more starting at exit 244 and continuing for a couple of miles. Looks like we are currently smoky-free. 85 and fair in Portland with an expected high of 89, and 86 and partly cloudy in Eugene. Look for 82 partly cloudy skies at kickoff, and it could dip into the high 60s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Your home for Oregon Ducks football is KFXX KWJJ HD2 Portland.
Gonna get three and a speedy does. Franklin scores.
1080 The Fan, an Odyssey station. Ducks Game Day continues.
James behind him. In fact, a fullback in front of him. Give it to James, and he will stroll to the right side in a touchdown.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Boise State Broncos. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods PDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by ZoomCare, Bellagio's Pizza, Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division, Audi Wilsonville, Laurelhurst Market, by Unitas Community Credit Union, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman, with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back into the Oregon Ducks pregame show, live down here at Autzen Stadium. Gates are open. Fans are piling in. What a scene it was. I know it was a bit of a bummer night for Duck fans because everybody figured we're going to hit the road by the third quarter and this could be an 80-point win, and it didn't go that way. But I do think we can center back on one main positive last week, and it's something we highlighted on the pregame show and throughout the course of the game, and that was, I don't know if I have ever seen the energy and intensity from the fan base for an opening game against an FCS team in which it was about 1,000 degrees, ballparking, but give or take 1,000 degrees.
I think that's fair.
Down on the field. That was one of the biggest positives of just the excitement that is around this season, around this fan base. It was on full display last week, and you give these folks 12 hours to get lubed up, which a lot of them have been doing, it's going to be an absolute zoo here tonight.
It was incredible to see the student section showing out the way they did.
Yes. Those Cali kids usually don't show up in week one.
Usually, yeah, especially for an FCS opponent.
Right.
Like, what is going on here? But student section was packed, the stands were packed, and the environment was buzzing. And that's one of the things that I don't think that you can underscore enough is the atmosphere can get to a lot of teams. It didn't get to Idaho. They embraced it, man. Fourth quarter, Shout was playing, and as it's playing, Idaho's defense is on the field, like
enjoying
egging the defense or egging the fans on, and I was going, oh, this doesn't feel right.
It's usually supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah, I don't think this is supposed to be how it goes. And give credit to Idaho for embracing the atmosphere. But it was rocking, and seeing now all of the fans kind of flooding in early already. There's an excitement about the program, and it's good to see Autzen back because there were a few years there where it seemed like people maybe got a little bit spoiled with the success of the program. It wasn't as loud. It wasn't as daunting.
A little bit from where you were under Chip. Yep.
Yeah, it seems like all that buzz is back, and that's fun.
It is going to be an awesome one tonight. Hour 2 of the pregame show, of course, presented by Coors Light, Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. And I think, look, I've been joking all week about there's a panic button that was covered in glass. I have broken the glass. I haven't pressed the panic button yet, but the glass over the button has been broken, and the hand's just there. It's hovering. It's kind of ready. Let's see how tonight goes. I think the optimistic approach that I will take, though, is that I looked at the schedule on the outset, Dusty, and I thought, we're really not going to find out who Oregon is until October 12th. You got Idaho, Boise State. Yeah, they're a good team, but that's going to be a 3-touchdown spread. Michigan State, Oregon State's rebuilding. UCLA barely beat Hawaii. We're just not going to learn much until October 12th. And now I go into tonight's game, and I look at it, and I said, we're going to find out who the 2024 Oregon Ducks are tonight. Either way, you come out and struggle again, there's going to be lingering questions and concerns. You come out, you run the ball, the offensive line looks better, you physically dominate, you win the game that many people think that you can. Breathe a sigh of relief, and maybe those preseason expectations weren't too high.
After week 1, you will learn something about this team. You'll learn about their resilience and their attitude of kind of who they are, and maybe we will learn that they did overlook Idaho in week 1. One way or another against Boise State tonight, we will learn something about this Oregon program. We're not going to sit here and come out of it and be like, oh boy, because if the game is close or if they lose to this Boise State team, we're going to take a long look in the mirror about what the expectations were this year and what the reality may be this year for the Oregon Ducks. If they blow Boise out and they look comfortable doing it and they execute at a high level, then all of a sudden all of those expectations are back on track, and we'll learn about this team's response to lackluster performances.
And you might be able to look back from the game a week ago and say, man, that was kind of a blessing. It could end up being. The game that I've been thinking about in my mind all week was the Alabama-South Florida game from last year. And they were coming off their loss to Texas. They went on the road for some reason to play South Florida in Tampa, and they were horrible. They benched Jalen Milroe. They couldn't run the football. Their offensive line couldn't block. They eke out a win. It's close the entire game. They end up winning like 17-3.
Yeah.
And if you watch that game and think about it, that moment, telling yourself that team's not only going to go to the playoff, they're going to beat Georgia and then their 30-game winning streak. And if they had a center that could snap a football, they'd probably beat Michigan in the semifinal game.
Take the eventual national champ to the brink.
And maybe win a national championship. So it was a reminder of that these clunky things can happen sometimes, especially when you have a lot of new pieces. And the best news for Oregon is that a lot of the mistakes that they were making last week, procedural stuff, dumb penalties, not paying attention, missed assignments, a lot of that stuff is correctable. And I can't wait to see how they handle it tonight. 7 o'clock kick. This is one of those eagerly anticipated games. I know Duck fans, I've been texting with buddies all week of just, God, I can't wait for this kickoff to get here.
In getting punched in the mouth early and having it come before, whether some fans were looking at October 12th or whether it was going to be against Oregon State or UCLA or Michigan State, having that punch in the jaw early is a lot better than taking it late.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the scores around the country. We'll get back into this matchup in a moment. There was a massive upset in college football today. If you're just turning on the show, we'll tell you who that was. Jonathan Smith looking to go 2-0. We'll tell you how that game's going to end. Iowa State's coming down to the wire, and Texas absolutely dominated Michigan. We'll take a look at some scores around the country. That is coming up next. Ducks pregame show live down in Autzen on 1080 The Fan.
Did you know that most people wait 6 or
Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Now going to go deep. Boy's got him down there. Catch made. Keep your balance. Touchdown, Oregon.
It's time for the Ducks Game Day scoreboard with previews and scores from around the country on your home for Oregon Ducks football, the Odyssey app, and 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's take a look at some scores around the country. Back live down here at Autzen Stadium. Kickoff coming a little under 3 hours from now. We got about 45 minutes left in our show as we will send you up to the booth with Dusty and Jorgie and Jerry and the guys. They get you all the way set up until kickoff. It is a hot, muggy, sticky, smoky, hazy day down here in Eugene.
There's a lot of adjectives there, and they're all true.
I think I kind of summed it up, all encompassing. A lot of ball sweat going on down here. It's a hot one down here.
There has got to be a word for that. I mean, other than
that,
ball sweat day.
Other than that, but that's what it feels like down here. Just a forewarning: if you're on your way down, I hope you're dressed coolly.
Muggy.
Although it will cool off as the game starts at 7:00 tonight. Biggest upset of the day: Notre Dame went down to Northern Illinois, fresh off their big win at A&M. They dropped it 16-14. They attempted a 62-yard field goal as time expired, and it was blocked. And Marcus Freeman, fresh. What a hilarious start to their year, where everybody saw that win, myself included, and said Notre Dame's in the playoff, man. Their schedule is absolute cake.
Wrong.
And then they lose to Northern Illinois. And remember, without the guarantee of a conference championship automatic bid, now all of a sudden that CFP spot is highly questionable.
Now, I say this all the time. Every November, I'm like, hey, you guys are missing Tuesday night action, all right?
That's right.
Now, maybe people are going to take Northern Illinois a little bit more seriously.
Start watching
in action football, all right?
Pay attention, damn it, to Northern Illinois. They beat Notre Dame 16-14. Penn State survived a scare against Bowling Green. 34-27 was the final there.
Uh-oh.
Utah wrapped up their win against Baylor 23-12. Probably the best game of the day. Oklahoma State-Arkansas was wild. Oklahoma State had a massive comeback in the second half. Back and forth, went all the way to the second overtime. They beat Arkansas 39-31. Kansas State beat Tulane 34-27. And then as the motorcycle drives through, always
for
great
the
timing.
8th time.
He's just getting ready for game time, man. A couple other finals from earlier games that just went final that we were watching. Iowa State wrapped up a win over Iowa 20-19. Big comeback for them. They outscored Iowa 20-6 in the second half of that game.
No way.
Iowa's struggling with offense still. Shocking, I know. Still an issue for them. Michigan State got a win on the road at Maryland, so Jonathan Smith off to a 2-0 start.
2-0 start.
And how about Justin Wilcox and Cal going into SEC country, getting a win over an Auburn team that a lot of people thought could have a good year this year, not just hanging. They won outright 21-14, man. Good for the Cal Golden Bears and Justin Wilcox.
And look, that's a big win for them, not just going on the road and going into the SEC and winning, but the way that they ended up winning that game, I think speaks volumes, as they were never trailing in that game outside of the first touchdown. Auburn goes down and scores. Cal answered right after that with a 4-minute drive, and they marched down the field. They tie it back up, and then they took a lead in the second quarter, built on that lead in the fourth quarter, and end up winning 21-14, or 21-20 rather. That is huge. That's huge for them to go and do that, and you're putting them on the ropes to where they didn't kick the extra point. They went for 2.
To try and win the game. Which meant they didn't feel comfortable at home in that situation. Usually that's a move that you do on the road to say we don't want to go to overtime in a road environment. They did it at home. They felt uncomfortable the entire time. And that was without Jaden Ott, their top back, being at 100%. He only had 10 carries for 11 yards in that game. But Cal still finds a way to win. And ESPN screwed up my final box score. I did not see that. It had listed 21-14, but yeah, you are correct, 21-20. The final score there. The game everybody circled in college football today was Michigan and Texas, and it was over about 7 minutes in. I mean, you got a feeling of 2 drives into that game, Michigan cannot hang. They don't have the offense, and their defense has probably lost a step. Also, Quinn Ewers and that offense, man, they are damn good. Texas putting everybody on notice, dominating Michigan in the Big House today, this morning. Hey, guys, there's also a big one here. Idaho beat Wyoming. Idaho got the win? 17-14. They go to Laramie. Really good, man. And they did it with their backup quarterback. Jack Lane, the starter, broke his clavicle in the fourth quarter against the Ducks. He's out 10 weeks. They go on the road with a backup quarterback as an FCS program.
and they beat Wyoming.
Man, what is going on at Wyoming? They're off to a rough start this year. Washington got a win over Eastern Michigan. That one's final 30-9. And then, of course, Oregon State does not play until later tonight. So if you're watching at home, you got a dual screen it. They kick at 7:30 on the CBS Sports Network. They are down on the road at San Diego State. There is a look at all the scores around the country on this kind of a dud week 2, but, some exciting football nonetheless. Every week you look at it and say, there's not a lot of big games. Then you get Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame, classic comebacks, and so it ends up being a great week, as always, of college football.
Well, you get Colorado, Nebraska just about to get underway
buddy.
in Lincoln, and that's going to be a fun one.
I can't wait, man. We'll let you know how that one goes. We got about 40 minutes left in our pregame show. Let's get back into this matchup between Oregon and Boise State. A couple of position groups to focus on. I also want to ask Dusty a question about one guy who was coming off an injury. Didn't quite look 100%. Does the rotation change going into week 2, or was it not his fault? We'll dive back into the Oregon-Boise State matchup. Coming up next, we're live down here at Autzen Stadium. You're listening to the Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, it's Suk, and let me tell you, there's a huge
Live from Autzen Stadium, this is Ducks Game Day, presented by Coors Light. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Let's take a look at our game to watch here coming up in a moment. We're back down here live at Autzen Stadium. Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara hanging out with you. Gates are open. Fans are piling in.
All right.
Decent amount of Boise State fans so far. Seen a bit of blue walking through.
Yeah, I saw a guy trying to trigger you. He was carrying a sign that said 3-0, Dirt.
So put an asterisk on that thing.
Yeah.
Put an asterisk on that thing. All right. How many games do we have our starting quarterback in? I start yelling that at him as he walks by. There are some games to watch, and we'll get to that in a moment. I did want to get back to, everybody's going to keep their eye on tonight. Can Oregon run the football? How does the offensive line look? And I grant you the offensive line was the primary concern from game one. I am curious to get your thoughts. You were down on the field the entire game. on Noah Whittington and what he looked like. So we know he's coming off a devastating injury, and anybody who's been through that, it's just like the mental grind of trusting in the process and understanding that I'm going to be okay, and I don't have to worry about this cut or this tackle, and I can get through it all right. There was a pretty big disparity between Jordan James' yard per carry and Noah Whittington yard per carry, where James was over 6 yards a carry, Whittington down just above 2. Didn't have a rung longer of 8. Was there anything there, and do we think we see maybe some of that depth of Jaden Lamar, a guy everybody's excited about going into year 2 in the program, of shuffling the rotation, or way too soon to bring any of that up?
I think they wanted to ease Noah back into the rotation and ease him back into live reps again. I mean, you think of the last time that we saw him, it was the end of September last year when Colorado came a-calling, and that shot on the sideline, he did not look like the one-cut shifty back that is, prior to the injury, was perfect for this offense.
Exactly.
And he was a phenomenal back. I think you're shaking off a little bit of that rust, and as you said, there's a little bit of that trust, right? You have to build that trust back up within your own body. And the worst team to go up against is a team that'll ankle pick tackle you when you have a lower leg injury, right? When their target point is your lower body and you're coming off a devastating knee injury, I can imagine, and I don't know this to be certain with Noah, but it would probably be something that you're extra cautious of and you're worried about. I think that as the course of the season goes on, we will be seeing more of Jaden Lamar and Jay Harris, the Southwest Missouri State
Jay Harris,
running back.
no carries last week.
No carries last week, and he's a guy that he's a load at running back, and he is one of those one-cut dump trucks that will just come and mow you over and will seek out contact. I think we do see an expanded running back rotation. I think that especially with maybe the lack of push that they were getting up front, they said, we're going to stick to the guys that we know.
Yeah.
And what we know is Jordan James and Noah Whittington can wear you down. That didn't end up happening last week. There were, again, a couple of opportunities for Jordan James especially where, he trips in the open field, he cramps up on a cutback. Those are ones that you go, he usually runs through those. Yep. And I think no panic in the running back room and rotation right now, but as it goes on, I think we're going to be seeing more and more of those guys.
Yeah, only 2 backs got carries. Kenyon Sadiq had a couple of fly sweeps that they tried. So
yeah, he's fun.
He is a fun weapon, man, and it's felt like he was close to breaking. We keep saying a couple of those big plays. He is going to be a big play machine here over the next couple of years. Just interested to see what the running back rotation looks like tonight. Love to see Noah Whittington back healthy. That was a devastating injury. Thought, do I even want to play football anymore? Will I be able to come back? So just to see him on the field is awesome, and I hope he builds that confidence back in himself and in that knee.
And I think one thing about Noah Whittington, too, is that if you get clear running lanes, it's a lot easier in that first game. We also saw a lot of replacement, right? We saw a lot of stunts, twists, blitz replacers, guys showing up into the hole that, when you're twisting a guy from the minus A gap over to the plus B gap on your run side, like it takes a little bit of time for him to get used to that again. Idaho threw the kitchen sink at Oregon up front.
Yep.
Like, they really did. They brought a lot of pressure. They twisted their defensive linemen a ton in that game. And I think there was a little bit of that factor, too, with Noah.
No doubt about it. We'll see what the rotation looks like, and if the offensive line, that would help. Them creating a few more holes for him to get through. Maybe he feels a little more comfortable if he's got a wider lane to run through. Let's get to the game to watch. What are we circling tonight in the world of college football? That is next. You got the Ducks pregame show live down here at Autzen on 1080 The Fan.
Aloha. It's Marcus from the Somebody who's been around for a long time and wants to tell some nice stories.
Here with Isaac and Souk on The Fan is Joey Harrington. Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Better opponent this week. I don't know that you're worried, but you got to have a little bit of worry considering what happened last week. And Boise State's a pretty good team, probably one of the better group of 5 teams, right? I mean, you got to be worried a little bit.
They're no joke. I mean, they have arguably the best running back in college football right now. You better bring, if defensively, the thing that makes me feel better is that this wasn't a defensive line. We're talking offensive line, right? If we were talking about defensive line issues going against this running back, then I got a little bit more, I got a little more nervousness in the tank. I feel fine. Offensively, they get it figured out. I don't think it's going to be a 52-point win. I could be wrong, but they're just too good at running the football right now to really feel like this is going to be an explosive game or a runaway game, I should say. But yeah, I mean, this is a decent team that is not going to be a pushover.
Yeah, but, Georgia, again, week to week, who knows? But Georgia Southern, I mean, they threw the ball for 322, ran for $139. I mean, 27 first downs. Like, this is kind of one of...
They're going to score.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my point, is Oregon's going to score.
Yes.
Or they should. I mean, we thought Oregon was going to score in Idaho.
Dude, if they
but
don't,
my point is, okay, great. Exactly. You go down and score, and I'm drawing a blank, of course, on the running back's last name because Genty, that's right. You go back and give the ball to Genty, like that. You're not getting it back right away, right? So my point is, sure, Georgia Southern put up, 50 points, 45 points on them, but this isn't something where you're going to be in a shootout. Right. This is something where you're going to have to lock down a running back that hasn't been locked down before, or else you're going to be in a high-scoring game that you're going to need to finish drives, which is what you didn't do last week.
Yeah, the guy's name's Ashton Genty, and I guess he's a Heisman candidate?
Yeah,
He's that good?
He's for real.
Yeah,
the real deal,
You look at like Pro Football Focus and a couple other sites, and depending on who you look, he is the 1 or 2. Him and Ollie Gordon, out of Oklahoma State, are the 2 NFL backs. So, yeah, I mean, this is a first round NFL draft pick. How he ended up staying at Boise, I mean, and this has been going on for a couple of years. Give Boise State credit that they managed to hold on to this kid, and a lot of people came with some dough because he would start at any program in the country.
For sure, yeah. I mean, he's physical. He's got great vision. He's got great balance. Like this is a guy that isn't. He's going to take multiple guys to bring him down, right? This is a guy where you have to be sound in your defensive scheme. You have to be sound in your responsibilities. You have to be sound in your gaps to corral him. And it's going to take work.
Much love. Have a great weekend. Stay cool. And we'll talk in the future.
That is.
That's Joey Harrington, courtesy of Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
So what are you reading?
I'm checking out the ratings on the new TVs, and it looks like Samsung, LG, and Sony got the best scores.
Just like last year. What about those new high dynamic range TVs?
They got the highest scores of all, but their prices are really high.
Did you check online?
Yeah, their prices were about the same.
Well, there's one place where we can get a hot deal on those top-rated models.
Where?
At Video Only. Check out the ratings on TV stores.
I see. Video Only scored better than the others.
So, if you want the best deal on the best TVs,
then we should take our TV ratings and head over to top-rated Video Only.
At Video Only, you won't find huge stores with refrigerators or microwaves, but you will find the best deals on top-rated TVs, soundbars, and monitors. Shop around. Just make sure you visit Video Only, because if you don't,
you'll be sorry.
In Jansen Beach, Clackamas, Beaverton, Salem, and Eugene, Video Only.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Oh, what a throw. What a catch. What a catch. Terrence Ferguson.
Pacific Office Automation presents The Clear Advantage, a look at the players and units that match up well for the Ducks. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com.
All right, another rapid-fire segment live down at Austin. It tends to happen. We're excited. There's a lot to get to.
There's a lot of Smurfs walking around here
there
right
are.
now.
There's a lot of blue here today. What are we doing? Not that far of a drive, but hopefully we can shut them up. Mike Jorgenson is waiting, so we're going to go quickly here. And speaking of that, I think that's where I'm going to go with my clear advantage tonight. The biggest advantage that the Oregon Ducks have in this game is all of these people.
Yeah.
And this home crowd, a 7 o'clock kick. The atmosphere was awesome last week. They didn't have a ton to cheer for throughout the course of the game. I think they're built up. It's pent up. They're ready to explode. Biggest advantage to me tonight is this crowd here at Autzen Stadium.
I think this crowd and the quarterback advantage, too. And I know a lot of people were critical of Dylan Gabriel for not pushing the ball downfield, but he took exactly what the defense gave him.
Yep.
And there is a little uneasiness about Boise State's fan base with Madsen Maddox, their quarterback, who he's kind of been up and down, and they are a little trigger shy about their quarterback.
They're going to want to run the football. Hopefully Oregon can slow it down tonight. This crowd's going to be a major factor. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com. Pacific Office Automation, problem solved. Let's hear from the color analyst of the Oregon Ducks, Mike Jorgenson, our good buddy. He's coming up next on the Ducks pregame show. Now it's time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Still pretty slow as you approach 12th and Sherwood Road into Wilsonville. If you're still there, what are you waiting for? More on the south side of Salem. Got a report of a smoky just after exit 263 and again as you leave Albany. 85 and fair in Portland. Looks like the high temp for today, and currently 86 and sunny in Eugene. Look for 82 partly cloudy skies at kickoff. Could dip into the high 60s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food.
This is the day of the big sale at your gift shop.
Welcome in.
So this isn't just a big day.
Of today's game with network color analyst and former Ducks quarterback Mike Jorgenson on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's talk to Mike Jorgenson, color analyst for the Oregon Ducks. Jorgie, buddy, always look forward to these chats. Last week was weird.
Yeah.
Excited for tonight because I think we're going to learn a lot about this team.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I think that's the way I approach it. It seemed like it took a couple of days to get beyond it, from the standpoint of you win, you learn from a win. They've said it all ad nauseum all week long is the best way to learn is from a win. You don't want an L. And that's what they came away with Idaho. I thought Idaho did a really nice job at the line of scrimmage and, controlled Oregon's run game. And heck, the safeties never had to come up and defend the run because the down four did such a good job until the field began to constrict and they could bring some heat because they didn't have to cover as much of the field from a corner standpoint. So, those things all go together and, keys to the game that we'll do before the game. I mean, I got one, right? Run the freaking ball.
Yeah.
But you got to work into that and you got to be ready for some things for Boise State that they saw that Idaho did, and there's going to be a lot of things that Boise State didn't do against Georgia Southern that Oregon's got to be ready for defensively, and let alone Genty, who's he's just a stud. He's a really good player.
Look, I think that's where it starts and stops when you're talking about Boise State is Ashton Genty. Dan Lanning said it earlier this week. It's the best running back he has seen since he has been at Oregon. The defense was not an issue last week. I thought they played fantastic. But tackling, is the most important thing when you have a back like this.
It is with him, and he breaks a lot of tackles, 5'9", 215, so he's just really sturdily built. Has a great straight arm if he has to use it, but frankly, he's just, he's got trees for legs, and you bump off of those things, you got to wrap up. Or you got to have one guy and four others come be able to pile on and make that play. So gang tackling, good tackling. A guy like Genty, you hope he's going to get his yards. I mean, he's going to get his carries. He's going to get his touches. He's a really good receiver out of the backfield.
Yeah.
He's going to get his carries. But what you want to see from a guy like that is if he gets 25 touches, 110 yards.
Yeah.
That type of deal. If he gets 30 touches, 120 yards type of situation, and no explosion type of ones that gets him up there really quick. So, But it's going to be fun. It's fun to be able to see guys like that. And I'll tell you what, his backup's not too bad either. So Oregon better be ready for that. And that's a guy they can take even more so than Genty and line up as a wide receiver. I was watching some of his high school film. He looked like the most fluid wide receiver on the field every time I saw him doing anything. So, you get mismatches on linebackers and running backs. Got to look out for that, too.
Something definitely to keep an eye on. I'm curious from your playing days, how big of a correction was it week 1 to week 2? I think that's a phrase out there a lot of coaches say. That's when you see the biggest growth in your team from week 1 to week 2. And the hope is a lot of the stuff was correctable. How much did we just chalk up to week 1? Fall camp's funky. First time you're playing an opponent, you're going to have a little bit of rust, and that's going to show up.
Yeah, I mean, they had some guys in different positions, I mean, they had, a center that normally doesn't play or start as a center. The starting center was over at the right guard position. We had no Bedford playing, the transfer in from Indiana. Then it's a communication thing, and I don't think people understand how important the communication is in that interior line as defensive linemen begin to twist. Defensive end wraps into the middle and tackle goes to the outside, and here's a big hole for the linebacker to run through, and nobody's prepared for it. And so, the communication is going to be a big piece. But I guess to answer your question, there's a lot of corrections that take place. There's a lot of learning type of things that take place. But then there's going to be a whole new week of teaching, too, because Boise State does things different than Idaho. And they're going to throw a wrinkle or two in that Oregon's never seen before. So, it's that chess game between the two teams is always amazing. And, Oregon didn't show a lot last week either. So
something that I couldn't wrap my head around was there's a lot of criticism from the fans about Dillon Gabriel's performance in week 1. And I looked at it and I said he had what I think Pro Football Focus said 2.16 seconds per drop back to throw the football. How did you kind of parse through his performance in week 1? Because he was efficient as all get out.
Well, that was the main thing in a game like that, when it was going to take 13, 14, 15 plays to get in the end zone, and that's just the way the game played out. And, heck, when you're a defense, that's what you want to force of an explosive offense. Is if they have to do that many plays, you're going to make a mistake someplace. You're going to approach a fourth down someplace. And so Idaho played it out the script, but I thought Dillon Gabriel did a great job. He didn't force balls. No. It's just so easy as a quarterback to not easy to make those throws, but he made a lot of really good, accurate throws to move the chains. But sooner or later, you get antsy and want to throw that deep ball.
Yeah.
Even when it's not there, you just want to see if Kyler Casper can go up and get it because he's 6'6", right?
Right.
And he didn't do that. And I think that's what was so good. And that was what was so good about Bo Nix last year. He didn't throw it into coverage. He didn't throw it into a crowd hoping a guy was going to make a play. And that's what Dillon Gabriel, after, a great career at a couple of universities and throwing for 15,000 yards, teaches you. Yeah. Hopefully that continues here today. But again, you get that running game going where Boise State's got to crowd the line of scrimmage, bring the safeties up a little bit, and they struggled against the pass last week against Georgia Southern. They're going to see better receivers and a better quarterback and better running backs this week.
Exactly.
If you can get that running game going, I think it's trouble for the Broncos.
Well, and they had that one shot on the opening drive, too, where you're, a half yard away from hitting Evan Stewart in the end zone. Yeah. It just was right there and just out of his reach. How much do we expect Dillon Gabriel to run tonight? Do you think that's a part of the offense? It's something that he brought to the table from his other stops, and we didn't see him really carry the rock. Even at times, he'd move up in the pocket. There were opportunities, and he would still throw. Didn't use his legs last week.
Yeah, I mean, none of us know, obviously, but I would think that there's a little bit more of a green light there with Boise State. Not to be reckless about it, but to be smart about it. He had a couple of 2 or 3 opportunities last week where I think in a lot of other games he'd have probably run the ball, maybe slid, hopefully. We'll find out if he does, if he's a slider. Yeah. We'll find out real quick. But at the same time, I think that's changing up as the season goes on, and we might see it here today.
Yeah. What'd you think of the back end of the defense last week against Idaho? I mean, so many new parts, new pieces coming in. Dante Manning, he played a lot early, and then he ended up leaving. I think with it was something he got dinged up on the forearm and ended up returning later in the game. But What'd you think of that back end and all the new pieces that were there?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were pretty good. I don't think the safeties really got caught off guard. You know, the trick play that they ran with the wide open tight end down the sideline, I mean, it was just a kind of a fake block on a screen pass. Up the field he goes, and it almost looked like maybe the corner was supposed to. I couldn't tell if it was safety corner that got fooled on that one, but everything else, you know, the big passes that they had, the DB was right where he was supposed to be, and sometimes it's a better catch that's made versus a defensive play. And so I thought the safeties against Idaho played well. They're going to get tested a little bit more by Boise State's receivers. I think each week into the season, they're going to see better and better receivers.
I'll let you finish it where you started it. What does Oregon need to do to get a win tonight?
What do you think I'm going to say?
I just want to hear you say it one more time. I
run
love
the freaking ball.
Amen,
okay?
brother. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say throw for 500 yards this time.
Yeah. 49 pass attempts again this week. No, that's not what we're looking for. Run the ball. Mike Jorgenson, the color analyst of the Ducks. Always enjoy it. We'll send it up to you in a booth in a bit, and have a great call, buddy.
All right, thanks.
There you go. Jorgie, we'll talk to him again next week as we get ready for the Civil War. What's at stake? That's coming up next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
When you switch and
that's how I feel about this weekend.
It's time for What's at Stake as the Ducks Game Day hosts look at the most impactful games in college football. Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market. More than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com.
Hey, before we get to What's at Stake, make sure you listen tonight to the Pacific Office Automation postgame scoreboard show. Your chance to hear what the Game Day secret score is, and then listen in the 7 a.m. hour to Sprague and I as we give it away. You will win a $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card. If you know the score, we listen for the cue Monday morning in the 7 a.m. hour. You can win that $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card. What's at stake tonight, buddy? I think a sigh of relief is what's at stake. Did we get way over our skis? Was last week an outlier? Clarity is what's at stake, it seems like, tonight.
Yeah, a statement is at stake here by the Oregon Ducks or the Boise State Broncos. It can go either way, but I think from the Oregon perspective, it's a statement that what you saw in week 1 against Idaho was an aberration, and we're not going to see that be the identity of the University of Oregon football team. They need to run the ball, as Jorgie said, establish the physicality that we've become accustomed to seeing, and we have to know that it was a fluke.
That was just a weird game.
It was a weird, clunky game from start to finish. And look, Idaho plays that game. They just went to Wyoming with a backup quarterback and won.
You just beat a Mountain West team. Yeah, exactly. That's a good coach who runs a good program. And so we'll see what Oregon can bring tonight. You're going to cut out for the final segment and head up to the booth because you got to go get ready for your second pregame show of the day.
That's right.
Just final thoughts and maybe a score prediction from you. Final thoughts and how you feeling.
Look, I think that you're going to see a team come out And it's not going to be flat at the beginning. It's not going to be one of those games where it takes them a minute to warm up and get this thing running. I think what we're going to see is Oregon's offense, and their defense wasn't an issue last week again, but Oregon's offense operating at a very high level from the get-go. Nerves are gone. You're not rattled anymore. I think what we are going to see is Oregon's offense establish the run, establish their identity early, and I think that plays out over the course of 60 minutes today, and I think Oregon wins. And I don't know if it is covering 19 and a half.
Yeah, 19 and a half is your closing line, it looks like.
But I think that you win by 2 scores in that realm there. And it depends on how well you can tackle Ashton Genty, who 8.15 yards after contact.
The stat
last
of the day
week.
right there, man. Nuts.
After contact, he averaged 8.15 yards per carry.
You're going to want a gang tackle tonight. Well, buddy, have a great call.
I will.
And there you go. Dusty's going to head up to the booth. Don't forget to listen to the postgame show tonight, Pacific Office Automation postgame scoreboard show, to listen for the Game Day Secret Score, your chance to win a $100 Lower Horse Market gift card, which Sprague and I will give away in the 7 a.m. hour on Monday. Lower Horse Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at lowerhorsemarket.com. We'll wrap it up. Final thoughts from me. The line to watch. I'll give you my point spread prediction on how the game goes. Final segment before we send you up into the booth next on 1080 The Fan.
Do you have 10,000? By Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org.
All right, final segment for us down here at Odds Innings. We'll send you up into the booth here in a moment as the guys will take you the rest of the way up until kickoff, 7 o'clock right here on the Fan tonight. And the line to watch is Oregon, 19.5 points. As it looks like going to be your closing line. I will take Oregon to cover. I know it has been a tough week for Duck fans and wondering what the hell happened last weekend against Idaho. I am hoping that is the wake-up call maybe that this team needed early on in the season. And if that is the case, they are the more talented team. I think Oregon's defense shows out tonight. That is a stacked unit, and I think they're going to show it against Ashton Genty as the motorcycle's going right in front of our booth, getting ready. The team's getting ready to come through the Mishawski Center. I will take Oregon to cover that 19-point spread. Give me about 49 to 20. I think they've got an offensive explosion tonight, and I'm sure they'll make fun of that on the postgame show later if that is not correct. Line to watch brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling, prevention, and treatment resources, visit opgr.org. That will do it for us, folks. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the pregame show. Whether you're driving down, watching on YouTube, or listening at home, Jerry, Jorgie, Dusty, and the guys will take you all the way up until kickoff, which is coming up 7 o'clock, Game 2 of the 2024 season. Thanks for tuning in. As always, go Ducks.
Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods PDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by ZoomCare.